Days after Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi visited Karachi, the US has now threatened to impose sanctions on Islamabad for considering trade deals with Iran, emphasizing that the US will impose sanctions on suppliers to Pakistan's ballistic missile program. US state noted that Washington will continue to take actions against the spread of weapons of mass destruction. Possible US sanctions could significantly impact Pakistan, which is currently recovering from economic instability. We'll discuss this and more, but first my colleague Vishal brings us this report.
The US has warned Pakistan of potential sanctions. Vedant Patel, the deputy spokesperson of the State Department, has said that the US advises anyone considering business deals with Iran to be aware of the potential risk of sanctions. The US has also said that ultimately it is Pakistan that can speak about its foreign policy pursuits and ambitions. So what is the reason behind this warning? The warning comes in the wake of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi's 3-day visit to Pakistan this week. It was the first visit by an Iranian president to Pakistan in 8 years. The visit came months after Iran had carried out attacks across the border in Pakistan. The latter had responded to the attacks within days by targeting a few sites in Iran. Coming back to the meet held this week, 8 bilateral agreements were inked, with Raisi vowing to boost trade with Pakistan to $10 billion per year. There's also an agreement of setting up a joint special economic zone with Islamabad. The Iran-Pakistan agreements also include judicial support in civil cases and cooperation in security matters. Soon after finishing his Pakistan tour, Iranian President Raisi has now arrived in Sri Lanka. According to reports, he is expected to inaugurate a hydropower and irrigation project that was delayed due to international sanctions on his government. With a powerful West Asia nation hovering the subcontinent, India will keep an eye out.
To discuss this and more, we have with us strategic affairs expert Brahma Chellaney. Welcome to our show, sir. Thank you for joining us. So firstly, I want to discuss what the significance of closer ties between Iran and Pakistan mean, especially for India and in its neighborhood.
Iran and Pakistan have been close partners in the past, but their relations of late have been quite strained. We saw that earlier this year when Iran carried out missile and drone strikes in Pakistan's Balochistan. It targeted what it said were Iranian terrorists. These are Baluch separatists that it targeted. And the Iranian president's current visit to Pakistan is essentially a fence mending trip. The fact is that those strains are coming in the way of closer cooperation between Pakistan and Iran.
Right. And now that the US has threatened to impose sanctions on Pakistan over its ties with Iran, how do you see these possible sanctions impacting Pakistan?
It's a good question. The US threat is just a threat. The reality is that the US is very much supporting the present government in Pakistan. The US kept quiet over the recent elections in Pakistan, which were neither fair nor open. In fact, they were essentially rigged. The military's preferred candidate, Shehbaz Sharif, has returned as the Prime Minister of crisis-torn Pakistan, but the government he heads lacks popular legitimacy, with its survival dependent on the general, especially the army chief. The real issue is this, that Pakistan is teetering on the brink of an economic collapse. It urgently needs another IMF bailout, and the US is very much supporting Pakistan's request for a fresh IMF bailout. So the threat of sanctions is really to goad Pakistan from developing closer ties with Iran, but it's nothing more than a threat.
Right. And how do you think that closer ties to Tehran could embolden Islamabad?
Well, I think Pakistan has close ties with China, with the US. If it manages to also have close ties with Iran, then of course it'll provide greater foreign policy leeway. to Pakistan. It'll be able to then maintain close ties with rival powers. But the fact is that unless these strains in Iran-Pakistan ties are actually addressed by Pakistan and by Iran, there is little possibility of Iran and Pakistan generally cooperating on regional or extra-regional issues. At the moment, they are each trying to ensure that the relationship, bilateral relationship, does not come under greater strain.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chellaney, for joining us today.